Okay, hi guys. This is gonna be the fourth tutorial video, and I decided to do dapple gray next as I have a horse that has to be painted dapple gray, and it was the most suggested video out of the other tutorial series that I'm going to work on. I'm going to show 3 different ways to do dapple grays. The first one is going to be on this guy, and this guy is an artist resin, and he's one that I'm keeping for my personal collection. The other 2 methods I'm going to show you on my test horse, and that horse will never be finished. I'm just using him so that you guys can see the other methods. So this one, I just primed him. The only thing I'd done to him is make a little gray mark to make sure that he wasn't sticky anymore. This one, you can pastel or airbrush your base coat, and basically the only thing that you're doing this first layer is just getting the basic shading down. So for this, these are pan pastels. There are a lot of other different brands that you can use if you choose to pastel it. It doesn't make a huge difference whether you pastel or airbrush the base, so you can do whichever one you're more comfortable with. Okay, I'm going to do this side, and then I'm going to edit the video and cut it, and come back after I get them all done. So now I'm taking some black and making some parts of it darker. I do highly recommend having a reference photo when you do dapple grays, because there are a lot of different shades of gray. There are a lot of different, you know, some horses are a lot lighter and some horses are a lot darker. This guy's going to be darker. But you don't have to go too extreme on the shading, because most of the dapples, at least on this guy, will cover it up. But you want to make sure you have a nice even base coat to start with. Okay. Okay, so this is my base coat for this guy. He's all done and he's ready for dapples. And then the only colors I used on him are just gray and black. So, and then just layering them until I got the right amount. Okay, so then for dapples on this guy, I'm just taking some white, forgot to turn that off, some white acrylic paint, and I won't end up needing that much, but that's okay. And I'm mixing it with some water so that I have like really, really watered down acrylic paint to work with. And then I'm going to take one of my little brushes. This is one of the smallest ones I have, and I just take the watered down acrylic and I go in and I just make little bitty, I make stars on this guy, but you can make them round, you can make them whatever shape you want. And try to be kind of random with it, because if you go in a row, you're or if you just try to go like this, it ends up in a row one way or the other. It's not a straight row, but it's definitely a row. So and then this guy is going to have them all over his body, but if you have a horse where like it fades together up here, all you have to do is just continue your dapples until you can't see them. And then they will fade with your base coat. And this is gonna look like the dapples are almost gonna look like this weird bluish gray color at first, but it's okay. Once it dries, it's not going to look quite so funny. And make them different sizes and different shapes. That's why I do stars, so they don't all end up the same. If I do dots, they all end up the same. And see, even though I'm trying really hard not to make them in a line, my brain automatically makes them in a line without realizing it. But that's okay. This guy's gonna be pretty cool. I'm liking this so far. And then this, for those of you that are wondering, this is a Baldito resin, and it was sculpted by Claire Stokes. She's in the UK. I don't know if she has any of him available. I've had him for a while. But he's a pretty cute little guy. But I think I have all three of her stablemate scale ones. She has this one. She has, and then the other two are Gypsy Vanners, and one of them is clipped and the other one is not clipped. And then I think her website is Meadowview Artistry, if any of you want to go check her stuff out. But I picked a stablemate scale one because I knew it wouldn't take me quite as long. And I haven't done this quite as much on bigger guys. Okay, and then again, when you do dapples, make sure you have your reference photos, because some of the horses that are really dark here in their back end don't have as many dapples where it's really dark. I'm gonna see if my camera will focus. Focus. No, we don't focus today. That's okay. Okay, so all I'm doing, trying to make this so you can see it, is doing little stars all over him. And I know it's fuzzy. My camera doesn't like me. So that's all I'm doing. All over his body. And then when you get to the legs, always check your reference photos again. But most of them have, I'm running out of paint. Most of them have these little lines on their legs. Oops, I'm out of the camera. Have these little lines like this. And again, this is just watered down acrylic. This isn't anything, you know, fancy or expensive. It's just plain old acrylic paint and then His base coat is pastels, but you can do the base coat, again, however you want to do it. I have done one with airbrushing, and it doesn't make any difference in the end piece whether you do the base coat with airbrushing or pastels. It's just personal preference. And then don't worry too much if some of them come out a little whiter than the others, because you can go back later and fix that with like a little bit more pastels on this guy. And then most of the time on real horses they kind of look like that anyway, so there are just some that are whiter than others. Okay, see, and then what I'm doing here is the horse that I have in mind, and I don't have a picture sitting here with me, which is probably not the best idea, but the horse that I have in mind, he's very, very dark in the back end, and he's very light colored up in the front end. It's kind of like the one that I'm using for my stone resin, but not quite the same. A little less extreme than him. I wanted to use my stone resin for this, but I didn't have time to get him prepped and ready. And like, if you can make them stars, I mean, some of these are coming out more like dots than stars, and that's okay because dapples are not all the same size, they're not all the same shape. And again, the same thing on the back leg. They usually have little striping on their gaskin. And you can do the striping with the same paint that you're doing the dapples with. I don't know if there's a specific name for that or not. I have a gray horse and I don't even know that. And then some of them, and you'll have to, again, check your references. Some horses will have this and some won't. Some have some of those lines down here lower on their leg too. Okay, so that's that side all pretty much done. It's pretty close. I'm going to add a few more here and there after I get his other side done. But if you have one that has a dark face, this one doesn't, so it's not going to show up. But if you have one that has a dark face, I would recommend going in with your white, the same white that you used for all the dapples, and just going over and highlighting some of the really fine spots on the face, because it really brings out, I mean, gray horses start graying out at their face and then it moves back from there. But it really helps bring out some of the gray spots. I mean, like, this guy doesn't need a whole lot because his face is already pretty white. But okay, so that's that side pretty much done. And I will show you him again as soon as I get the other side done. Okay, so now that you have your dapples done on your whole horse. He's all done both sides. This is the part where it kind of gets to be personal preference. If you like how he looks with just the straight dapples on him, you can leave him like that. Or you can go back with like some pastels and go over them a little bit so that they don't stand out quite so much. Or to darken them a little bit if that's what you need. And it'll kind of blend them a little bit too. Blend everything in. And then if you decide to go back over them with pastels, it looks something like that. You still have all of the dapples in there, and you can see them when you get up close to him, but they don't stand off of him quite as much. So that is about it for that first method. That's about all that you have to do. And if you feel like you got a little too much on there, you can take it and wipe it off a little bit too. Pastels don't stay on there until you spray them. So he is pretty much good to go. Other than detailing and stuff, but I can do that later. Okay. Then, second method that I'm gonna do. Basically, you start out the same as you did before, you would make your base coat, and I'm not going to do this one as much as I did the other one. I'm not actually going to go through this horse. Also, when you use pastels, watch out for fingerprints. That's what that is. So you would make your base in whatever shade that you want, and then basically you go through either with the same color or darker color, depending on what you want to do, and you just sit there and you make circles or other random shapes with your pastels. And it helps a little bit more if you have a smaller brush. This brush is a little big for this, but I'll just make bigger dapples so you can see them better. Basically, you just take and make circles or random shapes all over where you want dapples. And this is one of the ways that I use on horses that aren't gray too. I've done a dapple bay like this, and I think I've done a dapple palomino like this too. You start off with your one circle, and then you basically just build off of that. These are really, really big dapples, but I'm exaggerating it so that you guys can see what I'm doing. And then that's basically all you do. You just do that wherever you want dapples. When you get to an edge like this, and if you got to the bottom of his belly and you wanted to fade it out, I just make little lines that stick out like you meant to put a dapple there, but you didn't. So, and then that will, after you spray it, it will look like it's fading into his body. But I did this on a really sooty bay, and it turned out really cool. It looks kind of funny right there, but I promise you it works very well. Okay, and then the third method that I use, what you do is you would make your whole base coat again, and then you would take whatever color you wanted your dapples to be, and basically just color whatever space you want to be dappled. Just solid, or as close to solid as you can get. That's pretty much where I'm gonna get with that one. And then, assuming I can find one, you want to take there's one. You want to take an eraser. This is one out of a mechanical pencil. You take an eraser and then you just, and you'll have to wipe it off every once in a while. You just make dots or stars or squares, whatever you want to do. And again, I'm doing this kind of fast, but I don't want this video to be too long. And if you guys want me to go more in depth and actually do either of these other two methods on a horse, like a finished horse, just comment below and I can add that to the future videos. But I'm just trying to get the idea across right now. But that's all you do. And then when you're done with all of your dapples, spray him so that they all stay there, and then you can go over it with pastels again if you need to, or you want them a little darker, and if you don't, then you can just leave them as is. So anyway, those are the three methods. First one is you make the base and then paint it with acrylic paint, watered down acrylic paint, and then you can go over it with pastels again if you want, and that ends up in that. I know he looks better than the other two, but that's just because he's actually going to be a finished horse. This horse isn't, so I just wanted to show you the other ways to do it. The second way is to take your pastels and then basically just create little circles all over him, like that. And the third way is to cover whatever part you want in pastels and then take an eraser and erase away where you want dapples to be. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about that, just ask. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you have suggestions for other tutorial videos, you can comment that. I will have more time later this month to make a couple more tutorial videos, and that's about it. So thank you guys for watching.